Good morning, good day. This is February 10th, 2021, Wednesday, and your friend Engineer Suraj Singh speaking to you from Bharat, India, addressing this talk, addressing my opinions, my thoughts to all those interested over globe. Title of talk being Civil Field Engineering, Designs, Methods, Contracts, Construction Organizations, Coordination, Communication, Quantity, Quality, miscellaneous types of issues which are very much relevant in profession of engineering, which is related to mind, exclusively application of mind. If there is something that is related to work of mind, that is, you can say grossly profession of engineering, or you can say engineering itself, if you even don't use word profession here, because we don't want to limit something to profession only when it is used in overall development of society in whole world. And of course it is civil engineering, which is basics of all engineering. Human engineering, you can say how human lives, how evolution has happened, and how nature helps humanity. Nature teaches us civil engineering, you can say. There are so many components of nature that teach us. Solar system itself is one of those components, and there may be many more solar systems which teach us how to live and how to develop, how to think. Also, creatures like birds, they teach us. So, civil engineering is not exclusively that comes from university collection, it comes from experience and empirical order of humanity. My definition of civil engineering is different. I'm not talking of professional engineering definition, I'm talking of general definition, that there is no place in civil engineering if one cannot think. If you cannot think, there is no place for that person in civil engineering. That is very much important point. It may be projects, or it may be service, or it may be contracts, or it may be certification, whatsoever you can say, directly or indirectly. Civil engineering is very much basic in order, and we have to understand that point very, very clearly. If you miss to understand that, I think we miss a lot. I usually define engineering in such a way that people should understand, just like performance on contract. It says performance on contract, similarly you can say performance of civil engineering by people, by public. We have to work for. I can say, based on my little knowledge, and I can't say little experience or extensive experience, because experience has got no limit. I have learned very, very limited till now. I am now 66 years, and I worked around, you know, how many years in various fields of civil engineering or field engineering, somewhere in design, so somewhere in construction, somewhere in office, somewhere in communication, somewhere in coordination. One cannot work in one discipline forever, and therefore you must have multi-level of experience in field of engineering. Engineering which is related to mind, I understand that if I apply mind, I can think on whatever issue, and if I can think on whatever issue, I can get benefit of my knowledge, and others can get benefit of that knowledge. Projects are very important in life of a civil engineer, and without projects you cannot move. And of course projects are very limited in durations, not like continuation as maintenance operations, as you can say service operations, or you can say those operations which never end. It's not exactly, you can say service, you may say it's actually creation. When we say creation, this means a lot. When we say creation, creation of what? Just think of creation of what? When I use this word creation, this means what do you want to create? You can say it's an art, you can say it's a philosophy, or what? Or what you think already that exists in mind as part of vision. You have to produce that on ground, on earth. Is that creation? Or creation exactly appears in your mind as reality and we bring it on physical form rather than imaginary form? That's a point where we have to be very clear. Engineering is in both places. It exists in your mental application, it exists as vision, it exists as imaginary creation, thoughtful creation, hypothetical creation, you can say unlimited creation, and it works there itself in complex constructed mind from where comes out in form of or through medium of mental communication, mental coordination onto ground through papers or through some other means. That creation is called project. So this means project works or stands only up to time when creation starts and to that time when creation is complete. This means creation title can also be given to project. Just like we say this is creative work, people consider creative work means artwork. Yes, it can be artwork, because after all art is also a kind of valuable assignment, valuable work where nothing is available but you have imagination and you produce that, and maybe somebody engineers that imagination which gives us complete packet of creation, complete packet of something that is useful in life is called engineering. So when I say think, do and deliver, this has very extensive meaning, because thinking is limitless, doing is limitless, and delivering is defined. Delivering what has been produced or created is defined, and that product is known as engineered product, engineering product. We have to be very much clear about this. Everybody can define engineering in its own way. I have one way to think, you have another way to think, but ultimately it is creation that comes out in whatever form. In fact, engineering starts with very quality thinking. It starts with objective thinking, and also it tells each other within mind itself. It talks to billions of cells together in your mind. They coordinate together. Too much transmission of cells from one area to other area, one sector to other sector, and you get some hypothetical imaginary picture in your mind, which pictures when realized into form of creativity, that is called engineering product. It's very difficult for everybody to understand, because people only look through eyes this physical world and understand that. They cannot understand what comes out from mind, because we cannot see what comes out from mind, but a contemplator, or you can say a high profile mind, whose calculations within mind itself generate some kind of project or creativity. That's very much important. It is all operation and maintenance and you can say service of mind that everybody gets. Some gets too fast, too rapid, some gets slow, but everybody gets. Development of mind is education, we know. Engineering is also related to that. Engineering education develops mind only in higher profile. That's the only difference, because it is related to mathematics, it is related to calculations, it is related to science, it is related to applications, and ultimately it is overall related to best and optimum use of natural materials for this creativity and development activities. Because without natural products, without natural support, engineering cannot be done in no way. There is no branch of engineering which can move without support of nature, from civil engineering to agricultural engineering, from IT engineering to some other engineering, mechanical, electrical, all engineering depends directly upon natural support, or else there can be no engineering. It's difficult to understand, but this is fact. If you see history of humankind, you will find theory of evolution and you will find many more thoughts, all direct, all suggest to that fact, that engineering started when universe started, engineering started when maths started, engineering started when sciences started in nature, and that is God's engineering, you can say, not human engineering. God created universes, skies. Of course, it's beyond human imagination. But God is not human. God has got everything and God did everything. So we should expect God to give us power to think on more and more, so that God releases its secrets to every professional engineer. Without those secrets, we cannot do anything. We may be having highest degrees in our education, but real degree comes from blessings of God, when God transmits to us real knowledge and we do work on His developed earth, His created earth, God's created universe. We are supported by planetary system. We are supported by natural agencies like sunlight, air, water, moisture, rain, clouds. All these agencies support us. We may not realize, we may not know this. We know actually, we don't even consider when we talk of, because we are not very contemplative people. We are only in one way or other think that we are doing everything, which is actually limited thinking. When your thinking is exhaustive, it's disruptive, we can go to extent, which is very much important. So engineering actually teaches us all this, but we don't care any time. I'm not here to define engineering, but it's my pleasure sometime to talk that way, so that you may be, I'm not saying you are, you may be forced to think over at least, because thinking is the start of engineering. And without thinking, engineering doesn't need any x-ray, it doesn't need any test report, it doesn't need any blood report or urine report to start treatment. Engineering starts with philosophical thinking, with realistic thinking, and where we say we have some problem, we have to think on that, and if you think on that, we analyze that problem. There may be 10 problems within one problem, or there may be two problems. Depends on how far you think, how much do you think, and that thinking is very much powerful. Only you have to start one thinking, and when you start one thinking, other thinking in sequence follow. That is natural principle when you count series 1, 2, 3, 4. If you think of one, certainly two comes in your mind, then three comes in your mind. No, you know that, but even if you don't know 1, 2, 3, 4, one is there, then another one may be there, then another one may be there. Like that sequence or chain is constructed. So engineering is not that which you think you get certification from university and that is engineering. That is certified engineering, but there is another engineering which is non-certified, and that is best use of mind. I have seen those workers who have never gone to university, but they are very good professionals, I mean to say traditional occupants or vocational people who can do lot of work which is useful on projects, but this work is not recognized. Work is recognized and they may use that. But those traditional people, those gentlemen or those crew members are not given that value they deserve. Everything doesn't come from education only. Experience teaches a lot. If those people can train themselves or they are trained in skill development, they can do wonders, and they do. Sometimes they do something we can't even imagine, and they do that. That's where difference lies in. Yes, they do not know theory, they do not know formula, but they know physical activity, and that activity can be better done if we just train them to certain standards. So I'm not here to talk of skill development, but just give an example that engineering has so many faces, so many elevations, so many sections, so many plans in itself. Last time I talked about performance, and that performance was for contract performance on projects, and that is, you can say, turnkey projects or construction projects whatsoever. When you talk of turnkey project, construction is automatically involved in that, because turnkey means you have to design, you have to produce, and you have to construct and deliver, which is also known as EPC, that is engineering, production or procurement, and construction. Production and procurement I'm saying because first you have to produce, only then it can be procured. So engineering is a part, engineering is a domain where you have to design something, keeping all factors into account, uses into account what for you're designing, and then you may say you have to produce it, that can be a product, and that product has to be procured, or procurement includes production and transportation, and then it's a construction, installation and construction, and turnkey means just start using that. In fact, completely done project where you have to add nothing to that except you have to start operating that. So turnkey projects or EPC or total project, you can say. I was just referring some report as a sample for referring about how to close a contract. That's very important part here, and that performance report I had gone through, and if you see that here it is, nothing to do with contract, is just a page for reference, nothing to do with the contents of this. Just for your privilege I have included this. So I have written a lot in that. It's my work actually, it's nothing copied from somewhere else, it's my own work. And this was done long back, I think more than many couple of years, you can say. Just for your reference, this is all forward in that, and there was an index which was for the closeout. It is in many subtitles like scope and contract agreement, project title, objective and GP or you can say observations, contract dates, status on various provisions on contract documents, agreements, conditions, reference documents on contract for record purpose, packing, statutory performance guarantee, lesson learned, scope on contract cost, percentage breakdown for performance analysis, evaluation, payment details, and I gone through various contents of this conferring with you, and these are there. I'm just refreshing that and continue further so that you may at least know. Style speaking mode means report. Section 8 was of condition, which was instruction to bidder, 9 pages, conditions. So, if I refer to those, I'm not giving you those conditions, I'm just giving provision 1 introduction. So, it says that civil, electrical, mechanical, INC discipline works involved on power plant project. These are for client. Then bid proposal submitted without deviations. Then bid documents, commercial conditions and technical specifications, no comments. Means these are just means what references we are giving, that these points have been taken care of during execution of contract. So there is nothing to say on that, because you have to tell when you close some report, you have to tell what contract was technically and non-technically, commercially and non-commercially, what way you have performed on that. We have just to see if something is pending out of that. If something is pending, why it is pending? That's question number 1. If this is pending, this means it requires to be done. This an answer, and you can say why it has not been done. That's another question. So you have to justify why it has not been done. There should be valid reason for that, and if there is something to be done on that, you cannot say that you have done complete project. So now say bid submission procedure and technical commercial bid submitted, then present for completeness of proposal in this comprehensive bid for supplies and services, as one document was submitted which in line to compliance with this provision, bifurcated into supplies and service contract. This is just the records. Then delivery, about delivery answer was provision required sequential delivery, sequential delivery meeting requirements on site. Testing and commissioning performance testing could not be conducted for reasons well known to client. Brand name wherever so required, wherever alternative where so required, whatever alternative material to defined within designs if so provided, were approved as equal alternatives to those materials. Brand names as included within designs. Then provision was qualification of bidder. Qualification complied with all respects, since since the contractor is well experienced on such projects, having required capacity and capability as a single entity for joint ventures had been disqualified. Then submission of bid complied with all in all respects package meeting bid provision requirement. Signature of bids complied with in all respects package meeting bid provision requirements, and information documents required with proposal complied with in all respects by providing relevant required information and documents meeting bid provision requirements. Local conditions well understood by contractor prior to submission of bid, and special commercial conditions well understood by contractor prior to submission of bid. Provision defines various stages, payments including advance and bank guarantee, liquidated damages, performance penalties included. Validity of bid 6 months complied with, and taxes and duties, all necessary taxes required to be included as mandated by law, complied with. Then it is insurance, all insurance required to be complied have been complied with. Due diligence, contract understands all requirements, pertinent diligence relevant to this contract. And then provision 18, and we can say at award of contract, contractor won this contract based on international international competition and its capacity, build up proven track records. Then facilities at project site, contractor to receive construction water at one point free of cost, while electricity power on chargeable basis. Complete supply mechanism to be provided by contractor itself from those points supplies, and employer agreed that contractor hire generator set and use it for electrical supply, for which purpose employer would pay to contractor. Diesel generator hire charges and diesel fuel cost whatsoever amount would be authenticated on site. Optimum alternative offer. No alternative offer submitted with demanded proposal. Order of governing documents. Data sheet. Data sheet shall prevail over write-up complied with. Price schedule. No comments. Agreed price complied with. Then general conditions. General purchase conditions 20 pages. 61 conditions and definitions of term, in which says always there are certain definitions in every contract, and here no comments with exception of site in charge. Site in charge appointed by employer and trusted only with technical matters, which when decided shall be binding in all respects on both employer and contractor. Contract has been constituted defective in this sense to an extent of absence of definition pertinent which authority would lead site for contract management and administrative purpose. In this case, employer is as an EPC contractor. Employer is an EPC contractor in addition to developer who are developers or promoters, you can say. Then international provision to appoint one engineer in terms of contract have not been brought into use for comprehensive project management and supervision. But remains independent of owner and contractor both. All decisions on contract management are by practice entrusted to such appointed engineer to discharge role of complete delivery of a good prosecuted project. In this case, employer are both owned by same person. Employer, you can say, and EPC both are owned by same person. Site in charge enjoys no financial authority to decide on contract financial issues. Owner himself is responsible. Owner himself is responsible for deciding payment issues, which is not professional engineering practice. Method of managing such issues, since owner shall certainly act as biased towards itself and do injustice to contractor, injustice to contractor remains at risk. I'm sorry. Contractor as a contractor, give as a contractor, and missed to note and bring to employer attention this provision and missing part at bidding time, which would otherwise alter payment mechanism, avoiding unjust conduct by owner pertinent contractor's payment. Now, another is manner of execution of order. All conditions under this provision successfully complied with without any complaint. This provision successfully under any complaints. All deliverables have been manufactured and supplied to site in defined time without any production delays. All required documents, deliveries such as time schedules, charts, and other requirements approved within defined time. All required materials handling affected to procedures and carried out successfully on site and during transportation from port to site. No considerable insurance claims have been raised to that issue of material handling. Then order price, taxes and duties. No comments since all prices whatsoever included within lump sum price. Procedure for payment against invoices, bills. Contractor complied with all procedures pertinent submission of invoices or bills in all respects. All supporting documents had been submitted with relevant invoices. Wherever required, bank guarantees had been produced against advance payment statements. Invoices had been submitted in time. Invoices had been submitted in time in line to performance of works or schedule of payment requirement. Unfortunately, employer at many occasions did not comply with this condition satisfactorily when payments had been delayed to be released. Contractor as a contractor does not name of a contractor as a contractor does not approve provision to an extent description included within. Only contractor or supplier has been held responsible on an exclusive basis for causing delays on payments, while there had been delays on account of sheer failure in efficient operation of this provision by employer. Payments. Employer did not comply with mandate on these provisions for payments had not been released in general in defined time, which is a good lesson learned by contractor. Payment schedule. Contractor complied with this provision fully. Time schedule was approved in sequence of which milestone payments had been fixed. This schedule further resulted by transformation into breakdown of sums to be paid to contractor by employer in stages. This breakdown had been approved by employer for purpose of approving and releasing payments. Inland transportation and transit insurance. All transportation charges whatsoever pertinent have been borne by contractor. And correspondences, invoice and bills about this, we can say all bills, pro forma, invoices and correspondences have been submitted in quadruplicate with reference to purchase order number, contact number and other data duly addressed to purchaser. Limit of order. All equipments delivered have been brand new, duly manufactured or procured to approved specification or equivalent approved by purchaser. All necessary required accessories have been provided with equipment. All equipment, accessories, and terminal or other process control points have been based on compatibility and interface meeting requirement, which may be interchanged if so required without affecting its operation. All equipment have been installed in a safe and satisfactory manner so as not to cause uncalled for accidents or breakdown during operation. Dispatch instructions. Dispatch Dispatches have been made by road to road through sea. Dispatches have been attached with dispatch documents. Dispatches have been attached with dispatch documents such as invoices, packing list, challan, lorry receipt, transporter's copy of invoice, gate pass, and road permit. All other conditions, pertinent address to which dispatches had to be sent, and relevant notifications complied with as and when required. Packing, forwarding, and shipment. All provisions included within this condition, pertinent packing and shipment complied with all requirements and safe deliveries made to site locations. All documents as enlisted provided to purchaser. Required protection to all equipment materials had been applied during handling, storage, and erection stages. In case of certain damages during transportation and transit, supplier applied correction process or replaced damaged material or goods. Replaced damaged materials or goods. No damaged material has been included on site works. Rating plates, name plates, and labels. All main and auxiliary items have been provided with non-corrosive materials, nameplates indicating equipment rating, equipment type, manufacturer, title, and details of plant with diagrams wherever required. Each item of plant provided with nameplate designating service that equipment shall provide complying in line to specification. Liquidated damages for delays. No successfully, whereas there has been no record to impose liquidated damages. Damages, wharfage, contractor cleared all materials and equipment in time from ports, resulting in no such damage or wharfage charges imposition. Liability for accidents and damages. Contractor has been liable for loss or damage to materials or goods transported to site from everywhere. Provisions are made for adequate insurance or even for which items no insurance covered had been applicable. Contractor responded successfully. Termination of order by purchaser. Contractor complied with all such requirements on this contract that attract no operation of termination condition. On contrary, contractor had not been paid in defined time its payment dues, which condition could invite either suspension of works or, if so repeated many times, delay on payment. Contractor could opt for notifying termination on its part, but contract is silent, pertinent contractor's power to terminate contract, which is an absolutely unjust on equity or equality his contracts, and such non-equity based conditions are not permitted within international contracting practice. Unbecomingly, tried to notify pre-termination notice followed by service of termination notice, allegedly based on default of contractor, which description of defaults amounted to concocted stories, while certain facts had been concealed that employer failed to keep up its commitment to make timely payment to contractor. And in response to served termination notice, contractor contested its authenticity and responded by terming it completely baseless with no factual circumstances. This termination had been surpassed by results of one contract meeting dated in 2012, which ordered contractor to resume its suspended activities while payment issue would be attended in conformance to contract provisions. Since then, there has been no further progress on contract issues, while employer did not release contract due payment to contractor. Payment if order terminated. Payment if order terminated. Condition does not apply since termination had not been finalized, while works had to be resumed by contractor provided payment issue would have been properly responded. But all attempts by contractor in this respect remained futile. Equipment performance guarantee. Contractor complied with all such provisions and delivered only those equipment that would be successful in reaching demanded performance level and criteria. Assignment and subletting. All permanent materials considered conforming to specification requirements had been approved first by purchaser, employer, and then only placed for procurement orders. All materials that had been included on approved contract list were used for selection to procure, provided purchaser or employer consented or concurred. All permanent equipments considered conforming to specification requirements had been approved first by purchaser or employer and then only placed for procurement orders. All permanent accessories considered conforming to specification requirements had been approved first by purchaser or employer and then only placed for procurement orders. All sub-vendors selected for works had been first proposed for approval by employer and then respective subcontract executed. Copies pertinent to such services representing materials, equipments and vendors had been submitted to vendor for reference and were so required for approval. Foregoing procedures had been conducted in form of material approval. Material approvals and subcontractor approvals orally or by documentation. Variation in scope of work or specification. No changes on scope of works or on scope of specification or design changes had been affected. Whatever changes affected on designs or scope of works or on specifications had been evaluated or compared equivalent to those included within contract order or work order. Progress reports maintenance status. Progress report as required had been submitted regularly on weekly basis. Progress reports Progress reports reflected professional requirements including contract dates, no delays on project performance, recovery methods, proposed earned progress value, status of payments, technical issues, site issues, etc. in a comprehensive manner for permanent records. Engineering data. Engineering was carried out in conformance to data included within contract technical specification. Engineering was based on actual materials and equipment proposed to be included permanently, duly approved by purchaser or employer. Engineering documents had been submitted meeting all specification and procedures requirements. Whatever submission had been made respecting engineering proposals, whether engineering shop or working drawings, by internal contractor quality management system and then submitted to employer for final approval by employer. Whatever changes or alterations made on works during prosecution stages had been recorded as red line documents, which changes later on had been incorporated on as built drawings, documents and specifications. Wherever statutory approvals from either third party or from government or state had been required by laws, statutes and regulations were applied for approval to concerned bodies and permissions obtained in due course of time for carrying out erection installation activities followed by incorporation respecting all observations recorded by relevant authorities or officials, which all approvals had been included on records of procurement of projects. All such data produced or procured or generated or used by contractor on engineering has responsibilities fully shared by contractor even if such engineering data had been approved by employer. Mistakes in drawings. Contractor has been responsible for each and every mistake that had been made on drawing, either by oversight or by committing an engineering mistake or error. All such errors or omissions or incorrect engineering or non-compliance were demanded with demanded specifications had been incorporated by approved corrections whatsoever. Contractors' internal engineering mechanism had been involved on review and proofreading pertinent all such engineering procedures all times from pre-design stage to handover or site living stage. Contractor complied with provisions acted properly on that contract, satisfying required schedule for manufacturing. Submission was made on performance of supplies contract within 15 days of signing that contract in consonance with entire network of power station equipment, followed by update status submission every week. Reference standards. Contractor complied with contract provided specifications in all respects. But where no such specification had been provided, update national as well as international standards or code provisions were referred to, and whereas conflict continued among the specifications and codes, such proposals were forwarded to employer for decision. Design coordination. Contractor complied with provisions within this condition in all respects, though this condition is related to supplies contract, yet affected properly on that contract satisfying its requirements. Required schedule for manufacturing. Designs were not directly initiated, but after careful understanding of front-end engineering design, that's called FEED requirement, and consideration, interrelated interface working, equipment technicalities selected with further consideration and scrutinizing constructability, manufacturability, ease of assembly and reassembly, as well as post installation operation and maintenance. Purchaser supervision. All work were carried out under direct supervision by employer's representative who interpreted all terms and conditions of contract, reviewed all submitted documents by contractor, witnessed all tests and trials at manufacturer's work as well as on site. Inspect to either approve or reject any or whatever every work or activity, equipment or material whatsoever performed by contractors under contract. Order, issue certificate of acceptance and certificate for progressive payment. Review and to suggest either modifications or improvements in completion schedules from time to time. Supervise quality assurance and requirements, compliance, etc., whatsoever transpired on contract prosecution currency. It has been recorded that contractor in general performed on contract pertinent foregoing activities in a satisfactory manner. Coordination meeting. Contractor or its authorized representatives attended to participate in all such coordination meetings scheduled or specially convened by employer or its authorized representative during entire currency of project executions, both in designs as well as on erection stages. Such meetings had been attended with employers' personnel, consultants, and other relevant authorities from time to time. Cooperation with other suppliers or EPCC contractors. Cooperation with other suppliers or EPCC contractors or vendors had been affected by contractor in each and every respects as and when so required, with due records made available to other party and to employer. Whenever presence of employer's agent or representative had been required, a request was used to be made to representative for necessary presence to participate in interface coordination meeting for reaching certain resolution between and among scope of works on two or more contractors interface related items. Field personnel at site for supervision of erection. Contractor submitted formal curriculum vitae pertinent all keep field personnel for approval. All such personnel who had been deployed on site were duly approved on records or on oral confirmation. All such key personnel had been duly qualified and experienced on their professional engineering disciplines. Inspection and testing. Contractors supported and assisted all inspections that had been conducted by employer's representative on site as well as on contractor's premises. Contractor provided required materials and other resources to support and assist all such inspections in all respects without any delay. Employer's representative had been handed over dispatch and delivery documents to representative for inspection in all respects for final approval of all such items on site after deliveries were made. All rejections of materials and equipment, whatsoever it would be, had been replaced by acceptable ones. The delays by purchaser or his authorized agent. Provision made to grant extension of time to contractor when submitted document had not been either approved or rejected within defined number of days. On a general basis, no such issue had been brought into notice of contractors where grant of extension would be required from for employer. Completion of order. Completion of order. Work order. I mean to say, since this contract order has been continuing in force since date of signing with no accepted records of either termination or suspension, provision within conditions of guarantee mandates that date of completion starts on completion of 12 months after testing and commissioning, or completion of 18 months from day of last equipment delivery, whatever being earlier. In this case, 18 months period has been over. Applied on this contract. Payment of dues by employer and due to reason of as one of contract's vendor created untrust on site, which issue was later resolved amicably. Guarantee. All provisions included within these conditions have been properly applied, operated, implemented to satisfaction of employer and relevant bodies if someone related. Replacement of parts and materials defective, damaged, lost during transit. Provisions included within this condition have been complied with and implemented instructed by employer as instructed by employer without causing any delays on progress performance and within a defined reasonable time of days of notifying days as served on contractors by employer. Spares requirement complied with as on complied accordingly, provided agreement pertinent revised price and time schedule has been concluded in writing. But in this case, no such modifications were requested by employer, hence this provision did not apply. Certificate not to affect right of purchase and liability of supplier. Contractor accepted that all approvals and certificates issued by employer have been issued to liability of contractor only, without affecting any right of employer. To an extent, performance of works, performance of equipment, and warranty of equipment are concerned, as included on supplies contract, but not related to erection services contract. Contractor did not cause any default among provisions included within this condition, hence this condition did not apply. Contractor complied with all provisions on this contract successfully, provided payments had been made in time, which condition did not work from end of employer. No waiver of rights. Contractor preserved and allowed reservation pertinent all contractual rights of employer to all extents until no default of payment had been made by employer. In this case, employer has defaulted on making timely payments, timely milestone-based payments, which status on payment does not grant all absolute rights to employer, but rights would depend on consideration of relevant case, which are related to payment issue. Effect and jurisdiction of order. Contract order came into force on this date. Jurisdiction is competent court of state of whatever. Patent rights and royalties, all provisions included within this condition complied with successfully. Deduction from contract order price, all provisions included within this condition are complied with successfully. Force measure, no such condition of force measure occurred during currency of prosecution of contract. Outbreak of war, no such condition of force majeure, outbreak of war occurred during currency prosecution of contract. Currency of settlement of disputes pertinent contract dues, payment accessed on this contract. Contractor is submitting its petition with this contract order, status, discharge report to employer to resolve payment issue. In case employer resolves issue pertinent payment in a defined time as provided within contract order, no requirement shall arise for referring this dispute to arbitration as mandated in condition whatever number. Arbitration. So far on this contract there has been no issue to refer any dispute to arbitration. In case due payment are not made to contractor by employer in notified time, requirement for arbitration shall arise and certainly be availed by contractor. Notified time is provided 30 days as included on condition number this within which period employer has an opportunity and authority to notify its proposed dispute resolution to contractor. Non-availing that opportunity shall exempt contractor from all rights to request or apply to employer. Contractor shall be contractually free to refer issue of non-payment of dues to arbitral tribunal constituted under provisions of Indian Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. Grafts and commissions. No such grafts or commissions had been paid to any person or authority related on to this contract order. Language and measures. English language has been used throughout on all contract related documents and secrecy. No information pertinent to this contract work order has been passed on to either any person or body, excepting those and only those relevant parts of contract documents to such persons or entities or parties who are connected to this contract for purpose of design, prosecution, testing and commissioning. All work related contracts had been included with secrecy clause or condition for instructing relevant vendors to maintain secrecy in turn to their respective responsibility and accountability. Publicity. No publicity conducted by contractor, but photographs recorded as required for employer for monitoring project progress. Enforcement of terms. All provisions and terms have been intact. Contractor may bring into operation either or all of terms and provisions that have been remaining unused. So far, for example, arbitration provision or contract payment claims provision. Defense of suits, no comments. Tools and tackles, one complete set of all special tools and tackles for erection, assembly and disassembly and maintenance of equipment as separately packed and dispatched, provided with each equipment conforming in line to provisions included within supplies contract. Taking over under guarantee. Inspection and testing of boilers had been conducted successfully, duly approved by statutory authority, boiler inspectorate officials, authenticated by reports. Commissioning of erection has not been completed due to reasons beyond control of contractor. Erection works have been completed. Performance tests have not been completed. Date of completion of contract order has surpassed its defined day. Guarantee period as defined within provision has been over. Project has been deemed taken over and deemed contract closure. Notices, provisions complied with all respects. Obligation of purchaser. Obligation of purchaser. Access to site provided successfully, but for equipment's entry, roads had not been made clear and grounds were not well prepared prior to day of equipment delivery onto site. These items pertinent access are part of civil work which do not come under ambit of scope on this contract work order. Employer has been responsible to this failure on obligation for not allowing impeccable access in all respects. Impeccable access in all respects. Very expensive offloading heavy equipment had to await many days to unload equipment vessels, which unrequired activities impacted considerably non-budgetary expenditure cost to contractor. But it had been faulted by employer inaction in time to provide required tenable functional access routes of standard safe working strength. Approvals had been effected within reasonable time, most of time, and for most of cases of submission. Payment to supplier or contractor status has been unpleasant and unsatisfactory. Special purchase conditions, no comments, complied with on all respects. Special purchase condition, page number this, then it is time schedule. Adherence to time schedule has been basic consideration and essence. Review meeting complied with by contractors, engineers conduct who attended every monthly progress review meeting at employer's head office, project site office. The monthly meeting involved all issues pertinent to prosecution of contract work order along with other respective contract packages. Uh, Port clearance, transport clearance, complied with by applying and obtaining all transport permits, respecting equipment safe transport by road or by rail as required. Facilities at project site, complied with by receiving construction water at one point from employer while electricity supply also at one point. From these pointed locations, further distribution for both supplies of services arranged by contractor. Advance bank guarantee details. Complied with making submissions as such respective each vendor. Section D1. General conditions of contract 19 pages, 52 conditions. Definition of terms. No comments. Contract and all other definitions. No comments since position of contract management engineer not included. Throughout duration of project